Mr. Sanyang, please be reminded that you are still on oath. And Council, can you proceed, please? Thank you. And welcome back, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Sanyang, you had earlier given us examples of revenue sources for the councils. What can you tell us about car park fees? Or car park, yes, for the car parks. What are they exactly?
Yeah, car park fees, these are charges that are made to vehicles that use the car parks, various car parks in the various councils. Initially, these car park fees was directly collected at the car parks themselves by councils providing collectors, and then with council police helping them to collect from the drivers with the ticket these car park fees. But recently, the government has put this car park fee on the pump price. And because of that, this car park fee is directly collected by GRA on behalf of the councils. Initially also, there was a sharing mechanism in place. I cannot remember the percentage, but the beneficiaries were GRA, Ministry of Finance, the police, as well as the councils. But since, I think 2 years back, we submitted on behalf of the councils that these car park fees should be 100% given to the councils, which has been honored, and then now councils are collecting 100% of this. However, since they are not incurring any cost in this collection, we are at the moment sharing it between the council on an equal sharing base. That is, all councils have the same amount, depending on what is collected, and the councils have agreed to this amount to be shared after every quarter. That means every month, GRA will send into the ministry the amount of how much fuel has been lifted from the fuel depot to the various pumping stations, and an amount is put on each liter, and that is what is collected by GRA, and that is transferred to the central government, that is the Accountant General, and this amount, the whole amount, will be shared among the councils on an equal share basis.
Initially, before the fees were collected through the pump price, you said they were collected from the drivers. Which drivers? Is it for all vehicles within the area councils?
No, car park fees were collected at the car park, that is commercial vehicles. At the car parks, the vehicles that are commercial vehicles at the car parks will pay these car park fees.
And now, is it the amounts being taken from the pump price? Is it still for just commercial vehicles, or is it for all vehicles?
No, now, as long as you are buying fuel, you are paying car park fees.
Okay. And what about sand mining fees? What can you tell us about those?
Sand mining is an activity that has some time back been coordinated by councils, or actually conducted by councils. But after the geology department, this particular role was transferred to the geology department, and royalties collected on behalf of, on this activity is shared between the central government, the councils, and also geology. The amount collected by the councils is meant to go back on the ground to at least maintenance that site so that it can be usable again. That is, or come up with a project that will enable the site to be reusable. Also, the geology coordinating body, again, I cannot remember the sharing mechanism in terms of percentage of head, but all of them have a percentage, including the central government.
And who checks to see that the royalties that are paid to the area councils involved are actually used for, you said, to take care of the sites? Is there a monitoring mechanism for that?
Yeah, the area council is supposed to, after royalties paid to them, supposed to prepare reports of these activities conducted through those funds and submitted to the central government and notify the geology department.
Mr. Kamara, please assist. Please identify the file that has been shown to you. The file.
The file is Area Council Earning Control.
And the reference number?
Reference LM9/176/01.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson, I apply to tender the file that has been identified by the witness. I'm sorry, this is one of your ministry files, right?
Exactly.
Thank you.
The Area Council Revenue Earning Control file number LM9/176/01 is admitted in evidence and marked LCG 14.
As the Commission pleases. Please identify the document that has been shown to you.
This is a letter from the Accountant General Department addressed to the Director of Geology Department on sand mining royalties deposit account. It is a folio number 76 with file reference DE21/01/P.74 in bracket 77.
Thank you. And that letter contains the breakdown of how the royalties are shared. Is that right?
Exactly.
Can you tell us how they're shared?
The sharing is about 20% goes to the local area councils, 50% goes to the consolidated revenue fund, 5% go to national environment, and the 25% go to geology department.
And I believe there was a memorandum of understanding between the stakeholders which resulted in an agreement as to the sharing mechanism.
Exactly.
Would you have a copy of that memorandum of understanding?
Yes, we can check it.
Kindly make that available for the commission. Please identify the document shown to you.
This is a letter from the Ministry to Accountant General Department, headed Sand Mining Royalty Deposit Account, reference LM9/176/01 in bracket 77.
Thank you.
Folio 77.
Thank you. And in that letter, I believe the 20% that was meant for the area councils was further divided so that 98% would go to one area council and 2% to Kerewan area council.
Exactly.
Could you tell us why the disparity between the two?
The disparity is as at that time, the revenue was collected, the mining was done in these two councils. The sand mining actually, but the official sand mining that was done, comparatively, it's 98 to 2%. So we share the revenue equally the same ratio in terms of the area that is being used to mine sand in West Coast and in Kerewan. Those are the two areas where the official minings were taking place. And if you consider the mining itself, the activity, it was 98% to 2%. From these two councils, and the same percentage is what we give them back.
Thank you. Now, can you tell us as well about billboard fees? What do you know about those? Billboard fees.
Billboard.
Yes. It's one of the sources of revenue for the area councils.
Yes, it was a revenue source for the area councils, and when the National Road Authority, some of these revenues which were with councils, as a result of creating some institutions, those particular responsibilities were shifted because of the mandate of those new bodies. The NRA, when it came into effect, it was responsible for all the road reserve, and these billboards are put on road reserves. And the idea was to enable the National Road Authority to use the billboards and also the revenue generated from the billboards to do the maintenance on the road reserve. It's either they take that responsibility, or if council take the billboard, they have to now be responsible for the maintenance of the road reserve. But road reserve is the mandate of the National Road Authority. So as such, it is convenient to give that revenue to the National Road Authority, hence they are the body responsible for the maintenance on all activities within the road reserve.
Very well. What about livestock? I believe there are some fees that are collected in respect of livestock
Yes,
within
livestock.
the different area councils.
Yes, that one also is similar to this. When JIRMA was formed, that is the body responsible for the taking care of animals. This livestock fee that was collected by councils was meant to buy injection to inject these animals. So when this body, JIRMA, I don't know the abbreviation what it means, was formed, this body now has the expertise to do that activity, that is to go around and inject these animals. So this fund, particular fund, was transferred because area council doesn't have the expertise to go and then inject these animals. So it is the expertise body, that is JIRMA, which is now responsible to collect that fee and also buy this medicine to inject or cure these animals. That's the reason why it was moved to the to this new body.
And sorry. Please look at the document being showed to you on Exhibit LGC5.
Yes.
And, can you tell us what folio number that is?
Folio 36.
And it's a letter from the Canifing Municipal Council.
Yes.
And it is requesting the reversal of the executive directive transferring all these revenue sources that we have just spoken about back to area councils. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know anything about that? How was that resolved?
Yes, there was a meeting. There was a meeting conducted at the level of the Office of the President, where these issues were discussed. And what was done at that meeting, as I said, was to get the CAPA fees all 100% given back to the councils. Because CAPACs, the maintenance of CAPAC is the responsibility of councils. But then other requests like the sand mining and also the cattle tax, those could not be given because these are other bodies that have been set up with those mandates and they have the expertise. So those responsibilities were left with them. However, NRA came out to say to the councils, if you are ready to take the responsibility of the maintenance of the road corridor, we are ready to give you back the that is the billboards fees. So, but then I personally advise council that they have not got the expertise and they should not go in for that kind of arrangement. Up till now, some councils will bring it up, but anytime they are ready, we can always engage NRA. They are willing to return it, but I know it will be a burden to the councils because these billboards, in some area councils, you have 1 or 2 or 3 few billboards. What are you going to generate from that? That will be able to take care of the road corridor, which is a mandate of another institution. So for me, it is better to be left with the institution that has got the mandate to do the maintenance of those areas than to take it over.
Within the ministries or the central government's view or move towards decentralization, and as provided for in the Local Government Act, certain things or certain responsibilities are supposed to be passed on to the municipal councils over time. And one of those is, as we had said before, the delegation from, or the devolution from the National Roads Authority to the area councils to fix feeder roads, etc. Now, you have now said there's an issue of expertise or lack of expertise. Is this not something that can be hired or contracted out?
It can be, but they are different. What councils are expected to do is to set up a road authority, because councils are purely responsible for the development of all feeder roads. So in order to do that feeder road, they need to have a road authority sort of within the council that will have that expertise to do those kind of activities. What I'm talking about here, these are highways, where these roads are the responsibility of National Road Authority. This is not the responsibility of the councils. So in that case, this is where we have these billboards as well. So that is why it becomes the responsibility of NRA. We have two separate type of roads. Yeah, it's only the feeder roads that the councils are responsible of.
But you'll agree, the Act also provides that ministries can delegate some of their functions, such as the repair of the highways, if they decide to do so. They can delegate those functions to the municipalities, and in such instances, they would be required to fund those projects.
For me, I don't think that is purely the responsibility of central government to build major roads. That has been clearly stated.
Yes, but the Act, the Local Government Act that we're both referring to, also provides that central government, through its various ministries, can pass on some of these responsibilities. We agree that it is their responsibility, but they are able to pass it on to area councils.
Yes.
And fund the projects.
Yes, but that is true. Okay. Most of the responsibilities as decentralization can be passed on to the councils for them to manage. However, we have to also consider the capacity and the structures under those councils. Councils should first build their structures. In the Act, it has given them leverage to go and then set up those bodies. Once those bodies are there and functional, you can always request for some of these things, or central government can devolve some of those responsibilities to the area councils. But it's not just by giving it to them when you know that the structure doesn't even exist.
But in this particular case of the Local Roads Authority, it is for the minister responsible for transportation, roads, whichever, or who's responsible for the National Roads Authority Act, to delegate the power specifically to the local area councils in order for them to be able to establish a local roads authority. Until that is done, they cannot go ahead and establish it by themselves.
The ministry has already decentralized. They have made their arms available in those regions. So now it is up to the councils to leverage on those arms that has already been decentralized to their regions. All NRA and the Ministry of Works, through their public works, have already been decentralized in all the regions. Now it is up to the councils to build their structures, to utilize these structures to be able to build their capacity or request for them whenever they need it.
So let me just refer you to Section 49 of the Local Government Act, and it deals with devolution of functions from central government to councils.
Right.
Sub 1 states, a minister responsible for any other ministry may, after consultation with the minister, which is your minister, devolve functions, services, and powers vested in that ministry to a council. 2. A devolution under subsection 1 of this section shall not be effected unless the government and the council are in agreement, adequate human, financial, and material resources are made available for the performance of the functions, provision of the services, and the exercise of the powers so devolved, and appropriate measures are taken to bring the change to the attention of the public. And then 3 says the services and functions specified on the part 1 of the second schedule shall be exclusive to the central government. So as I was saying, it is for the ministry, central government, to actually decide that it is going to devolve some of its powers to the municipality, and then take steps to do so and ensure that it provides adequate human, financial, and material sources to the councils to perform that function.
I don't think it says to provide. It says provided that they are. Did I hear it well?
It says a devolution under subsection 1 of this section shall not be effected unless 1. The government and the council are in agreement. Adequate human, financial, and material resources are made available for the performance of the functions, provision of the services, and the exercise of the powers so devolved.
Yes. If I understand it, these are some of the things that the minister may look as being conditions to be able to do that. He should make sure that those councils have made those things available. Then he may look into moving some of those functions, the way I understand it.
So your understanding is that it is for the council who is going to be given somebody else's responsibility to make those resources available in order to take on somebody else's work.
Not the resources, I mean the capacity.
The capacity, the resources, there has to be funding for the human resources, for example.
Yes.
Right. So essentially the ministry is giving the council work to do.
Yes.
But doesn't think, my understanding of what you think it is that, but it won't be responsible to provide finance, for example, for them to be able to hire more human capacity to deal with those issues.
I think what we are talking about, that portion has been fulfilled by government already. They've made it available already. It's
Government
there in the
has
regions.
made
It's
what?
there in the regions. They made it available to the regions, to the council, not under their control, but it's available to them. They have decentralized and moved these services.
Which service?
Like
Exactly.
Like let's say road authority. We are talking of NRA. They have got their regional offices. If we go to education, they have got their regional offices. If we go to health, they have got their regional offices. These services have already been decentralized at the level of the regions, even though not under the council control, but now the rest of it need to be a mutual first contact between government and council. Council must show interest and sit with government and agree in principle how these things will be managed and how these funds will be transferred. Already the structures have been moved. So once they sit as required by the Act and then agreed, then the rest will follow.
Considering that the functions that should be devolved to the area councils are functions that are vested in the ministry itself, do you not think that it would be appropriate for the ministry that wishes to devolve these functions to commence the conversation about these issues?
I think it should be the reverse.
Why?
Who is interested. I go to the market to buy food because I'm interested in food. It's not the shopkeeper to come to me because he needs money. So it's the same way. The council needed this, and the Act said, sit with government and discuss your interests. I think it is responsibility of the council to not only council, definitely, but then it's to their advantage to trigger the move and then engage. However, government can also do it.
how is it to their advantage, considering that some of these functions are meant to be done by the ministry? Would it not be more accurate to say that it is actually the council that would be helping to lighten the burden of the ministry by carrying out these functions on its behalf?
No. The functions are different. The intervention is feeder road under the main, let's say, highways. But then the area councils, once they utilize these structures, they're going to build their capacity. They're going to gain from technological transfer, expertise transfer. They're going to get from that so that they will be able to do their functions, learning from that effectively. That's the way, they're going to benefit.
Thank you. Moving on, who are the signatories to the Local Government Service Commission account?
Local Government Service
Commission account.
The one that was created, because now the Service Commission account is no more, after we have the budget line in the government budget to pay the commission members. This was an interim measure, as I explained earlier, where the Local Government Service Commission, upon the creation, we had some funding issues, and then we decided to write to councils and create a budget, an account for councils to pay to that account so that that account can be used to meet the allowance cost for the commission members. But after that, when the central government took 100% responsibility, this account was not active.
When was that?
That was 2019 onwards. 2019, we had this budget line, which was not enough. But 2020, then we increased this amount to cover the allowance cost of all the members. And from there onwards, this account was never been used.
At the time that the account was being used, who were the signatories?
That is at the level of the directorate. The director of governance will be a signature and also signatory, and also the accountant. Okay.
And was the accountant being paid by the Local Government Service Commission for these whatever services that he was rendering to the Local Government Service Commission?
The accountant is the officer designated to that unit, that is the directorate. So he does other functions, including this function.
So he wasn't paid by the Local Government Service Commission. He was paid by.
It's paid by the government. But however, if additional responsibilities are given to support staff, like accounts, they are support staff to us, procurement and other staff that are support staff to the central government. If additional responsibilities are given to them, sometimes you pay them allowance, one-off or something like that. But you subject it to approval.
Very well.
May I step in if you want to confer? Let me ask the commissioners if they have any questions at this point to ask while you sort yourself out.
Very well, we're grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's just a question about decentralization. The issue of decentralization has been discussed for many, many years, and not much is been done. Did you guys have a time to review why have we not decentralized? Is it capacity? Is it resources? Is it that the policy on decentralization is too stiff, whereby it doesn't go with time, you cannot change it as you move on? Or what are the issues that causing it? Because it could be very, very efficient if we decentralize, because it, you know what you mentioned it, capacity building, technology transfer, etc., etc. These are all beneficial. But why have we not moved? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very relevant question or concern. Decentralization, the lack of decentralization movement hinge on both the central government and the councils, their willingness to go along with decentralization. The central government, on its part, is not very willing to devolve power, and the local councils equally are not willing to devolve power. The central government is going to part away with a lot of financial commitment, and they feel that the councils doesn't have the enough structure to handle these finances. Where, as I quote the former finance minister, quoting or challenging councils that if you are able to put your house in order by providing the financial statements and other requirements in terms of finances, we will be able to also fulfill our commitments. So in short, it is the responsibility of both. And in the middle, there is always this blame game. It's you, it's you. That is why when the United Nations Capital Development Fund project, the UNCDF project came, for us at the ministry, see this as the biggest opportunity that can ever come to the Gambia to roll out decentralization. Because this is telling councils, now, you have been telling government we can do it. Maybe government didn't trust you. Now here comes a body which put the challenge on your table, give you now, here is the money. Now implement a project and tell government that now we can do it. Now give it to us. And government also trying to roll out. Now this fund comes from government. It's telling council that we have been telling you you cannot do it. Now here comes the fund. Here it is. Do it and let's see it. Now the ball is thrown into both corners for both players to prove themselves. And we have seen from the implementation a lot of lapses. When funds are transferred, procurement rules are not followed, because this body, as the ward committee, is the centralized structure. Most of the time, people see government devolving power to council. But council doesn't stop at the mayor and at the councillors. The centralized structures under the council that should actualize the centralization is the ward committee and the village committee. If they don't exist at all, the centralization cannot go. It will stop at center, drop into council, but it doesn't go. So this is the situation that we found ourselves. And for me personally, I'm very passionate about this UNCDF project. And I always tell councils that if you can implement this, we can always go back to government together with you and say, give it to us. Our people are ready, they can do it, and they have done it. So this has turned out to be a challenge. We are trying to catch up, But a lot of issues, when you made fund, this money, for your information, it comes from central bank to the ward account directly without passing through anybody. They pay to their account the whole cost of the project. And the idea is now, instead of government deciding to say to build a garden for a community, now this community themselves will have the cost of the garden, take a contractor, go through contractual process to hire a contractor. Once that is done, go through procurement process to buy materials needed, so that their structures, they themselves have also got structures within themselves, where you have the contract committee, the finance committee, the audit committee. All these committees are formed, so that the procurement committee, they do this, and then they're using it as a training process. That if the central government now, I always tell central government ministries, Ministry of Fisheries, now you want to build a borehole in CRR. It's with which ward? Ward A. Can we have the money given to their ward account? Let them implement, just as they are doing the UNCDF. This is the idea which we are going by. But to be honest, to cut it short, both sides seems not ready, in the sense that government have the fear of devolving power because the structure is not there. The council are saying we are ready, give it to us. So this is now going forward. But the UNCDF project, government has agreed to make sure that project is sustained because it's phasing out. Government has put in the national budget over 75 million to make sure that this structure remains, with a view to build those decentralized structures, so that when government devolves power and resources, it will flow through to the village level. Thank you.
Sanyang, local governance is actually based on constitutional provisions. We know that the Constitution under Section 193 clearly states that local government administration in the Gambia shall be based on a system of democratically elected councils with a high degree of local autonomy. How high is questionable. But then you go to Section 29 of the Local Government Act, as the lead counsel noted, where it talks about devolution of power. And devolution entails the transfer of competencies, financial resources, human resources, and also material resources. Then you just highlighted the fact that the ward is the entry point of all development in the community. So in essence, what we are seeing here is that when it comes to decentralization, you first have to democratize institutions. And democratization of institutions means the election of local representatives at the lowest level, where all development projects are conceptualized and then taken to council through the various committees. But one of the dichotomies that I have seen is that there is a lack of understanding by the councillors, at the level of councillors and at the level of mayors and chairpersons. And that is what is creating all the problems that we are having in the councils, because councillors don't actually understand their roles. You are not an administrator. You represent your people. Council is divided into two tiers. You have the policy making, councillors and mayors, and the administration, which is the CEO and the rest of the staff. Council delivers. But we have seen the problems between councillors and mayors, councillors, and the administration, juggling over powers. And this has impacted on the output of councils. So my question is, as the oversight ministry responsible for all these councils, are you doing anything, for example, in the form of an induction training, where councillors, when they assume office, they will be trained on their roles, and they know the relationship between as policymakers and the administrators. This morning, when you were talking about the budget, you mentioned the fact that there is an interface between the councillors and the ministry. But are the councillors, or do they actually know their roles? Maybe this has been the biggest problem, the conflict between the councillors and the administration. And at the end of the day, whatever the councils do or whatever the ministry do to effect decentralization would be just an exercise in futility. I think it is important that this induction program is done immediately. Now we're coming to elections. Immediately after the elections, an induction program is done, where councillors will know their roles vis-a-vis their relationship with council and also vis-a-vis their relationship with central government.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think your intervention has touched various areas and also the problems. But going specifically to the question, as at now, as we speak now, we've engaged UNDP in anticipation of the election so that we will do this training. This training has been going on. The current Minister of Justice was always contracted before to be doing this induction training. And prior to the coming of this last council, he has been doing that annually. He has always been contracted to do that kind of an exercise for the councillors. But I think it's just a problem here that most often people themselves don't go to look at what I am vying for. The first place is to look at the act. I want to go and compete. What is going to guide me in that competition? You should be able to know your role from the act before you even come in. At least the basic, to know that when I go there, this is what is expected of me. Can I do it? Yes, let me go for it. But what you said is very important, and the ministry is preparing for that. We have already consulted UNDP, and they are ready to support. We are working with them. The directorate is working with them to see that we have done it. And also in the budget, we also put aside an amount, knowing that this is election year. We have, during the budget period, we have put aside something for sensitization. So we want to see these resources or how they can be utilized to give them training. But I totally agree that the lack of understanding is causing a lot of problems. If it is in percentage, it will be above 90% of the problems are lack of understanding of our roles and also the role of others, especially the inside council itself, the role of the policy body vis-a-vis the role of the admin body. If you see my submission, my statement, I made it there that some of the problems that we experience is one of them that we normally experience in trying to administer the councils.
Thank you, Mr. Sanyang. Can I hand over the mic to Council to proceed?
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Sanyang, what is the ministry's involvement in staff redeployment for the councils?
The ministry is trying to, after the setting up of the service commission, redeployment, ministry will write to the service commission if there is a need, either through the council or if there is a need for efficiency of service, we will request through the service commission to redeploy certain staff around.
But is that not within the mandate of the service commission? Why is the ministry involved in that which is essentially the day-to-day running of the various councils?
Yeah, the ministry is the admin arm. The service commission does the rotation. They decide on what we propose. What we propose to them based on the efficiency of service, because we are the ones overseeing. We feel that such redeployment should be made, but it's not conclusive. It goes to the service commission for the service commission to look at it and then say, yes, your redeployment suggestion or request for the movement of our certain staff is approved or otherwise.
Does the ministry consult the councils when making this request to the service commission?
For
redeployment?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no.
And what informs the ministry's decision or evaluation of who should be redeployed or not?
That's what I'm saying. Based on the oversight function, you are exposed to a lot of activities and problems that occur in the council. You realize that certain people are put in certain positions with the expectation of them delivering, and then you realize that based on the challenges at that particular portfolio, the person is not performing to expectation, and then this request will be made for those things to be regularized.
If a person, staff of the council, is not performing according to expectations based on their expertise, why move them to another council? Why not remove them from the system?
No, it's not because it's not performing because of it's not able to do it. It's just because of the cadre the person is performing, and the load on that particular council might be too much for the individual to catch up. So you have to do justice by moving the person to what you feel he can handle.
Now, considering that it is the Local Government Service Commission that would have interviewed that staff and determined that that staff is fit and proper for the position that they're appointing him to, why would they now choose, or rather, they're not the ones choosing. The ministry will decide to redeploy the staff that the Local Government Service Commission has employed, has said is fit and proper for that position.
Yes.
The ministry will request that they be redeployed to another council because they're actually not fit and proper, contrary to what the commission had previously thought.
I don't understand when you say the commission has previous. Commission's appointment is based on information they have.
Yes, for the
but
position.
In the application, it might be different. But then rotations of positions like CEOs and directors of finance, this is for efficiency of service, just like any civil service. Permanent secretaries are moved, the accountants are moved. So this is for the efficiency of service, that somebody doesn't just grow too deep into the system that it becomes a problem. So this is just for efficiency of service, that periodically these rotations are made.
What is the period that such staff, for example, the CEO, how long is a CEO to stay in one municipality before being redeployed to another one?
There has not been a cut-off number of years, but I think this was done sometime after, was it last year or year before last? There was a request for movement of CEOs, but then this is not because of the number of years, but then at least you ask the person, you allow the person to serve for at least 2 years and above. But you have to also understand that, as you said earlier, these are people appointed by the Service Commission. We have to also look at the practice before coming of this. Most of these people, by default, got appointed by either the ministry or other bodies because at that time there was no service commission. So vetting in terms of quality was not very much put into consideration. So as such, a lot of people got themselves into certain positions which they are not fit for. And you cannot just dismiss them because, you know, they have been confirmed in those positions. You have to go through a long process. But then if you know the capacity or the workload in that particular unit is more than the individual, you can move him to a less loaded area where he will do the same function, type of function, but with less stress on the individual.
Thank you. At the last sitting, you had indicated to my co-counsel that the Local Government Service Commission and the ministry were required to act in the performance of, or rather the Local Government Service Commission is required to conform to the standards established by the Public Service Commission.
Yes.
And you had referred him to section 118(4), I believe, of the Local Government Act.
Exactly.
Right. Now, it is correct that your ministry had written to the chairman of the Public Service Commission to request for technical advice on Local Government Service Commission relation with Ministry of Local Government and Lands.
Yes.
And this was because you, as you have said, it is the standards that have been established by the Public Service Commission that should be followed.
Exactly.
Please identify the file that has been given to you.
It's the Local Government Service Commission file with file reference LM 35/131/01 part 2.
Thank you very much. And this is your ministry's file?
Yes.
Chairperson, I applied to tender the file that has been identified by the witness.
The Local Government Service Commission file with file number LM 35/131/01 part 2 is hereby admitted in evidence and marked as LCG 15.
As a commission, please. Please identify the document that has been shown to you.
The letter is a letter from the ministry to the Chairman, Public Service Commission, request for technical advice on local government service commission relation to the Ministry of Lands, with reference LM35/131/01 in bracket FG.
And what's the folio number, please?
The folio number is 210.
And that is the letter that the ministry wrote to seek technical advice as to what the relationship between the ministry and the Service Commission should be.
Exactly.
All right. Please look at folio 214.
Yes.
That is the response from the Public Service Commission to your office, right?
Yes.
And to just read, the advice that was given is at the last paragraph of the first page.
Yes.
And it says, having set up a local government service commission in accordance with Local Government Act 2002, amended 2015, the commission should have a designated office and a dedicated secretary who should be appointed by the commission itself in accordance with Public Service Commission Regulation 3. The Ministry of Lands and Regional Government should create another or designate an existing unit, example, Director of Local Governance, to serve as a secretariat for the Commission. That will work closely with the Secretary to the Commission in the same format as Personnel Management Office works with the Secretary, Public Service Commission. Accordingly, such a unit, example, Directorate of Local Governance, will be responsible for the paper and electronic records of staff of councils that are appointed by the Commission. The unit will use a different letterhead, example, Directorate of Local Governance, from that of the Ministry of Lands and Regional Government. For a commission of this nature to function without some regulations and service rules, it will be difficult. In this regard, the Commission may adopt the General Orders and Public Service Commission regulations or develop their own, taking cues from these orders and regulations and as well as the Local Government Act 2002, amended 2015. Now,
Yes.
it's correct that this is the advice that we had spoken about at the last sitting, that
Exactly.
you had said that you did not agree with.
Yes.
Now, this is even though you believe that, according to the Act, it is these standards that are established by the Public Service Commission that the Local Government Service Commission should follow.
What they are advising is not what is practiced at the Public Service Commission.
But you agree, it is the standards that they
It's not
set.
the standard. The standard means what they practice.
Who determines that that's what it means?
I know the standard at the Public Service Commission.
Right.
So if you are telling me to create a secretary that is appointed by the commission, whilst they themselves have a secretary which is deployed from the personnel management unit as the secretary to the commission, it's a contradiction of what standard obtains with them. If they are giving me a standard and that is not what is practiced at their level, then that is not the standard I should go by. And also, they indicated that the unit should use, the directorate should use a different letterhead.
They said example. You either create a directorate or you use the one that is in existence.
Using a different letterhead. All directorates under the Personnel Management Office use the Personnel Management Office letterhead. So this advice to me has been corrupted before it reaches me. Some people have interest in making them what they want to do. This was as a result of an issue for us to seek clarification, because there were issues, stalemate. People were having their opinion, the others were having their opinion. So we wrote to them to give us their independent opinion. But this opinion is not independent and is not in line with what obtains at PSC. So if the law says you should live by my standard, and my standard I'm telling you not to live by that, then I should not go by what you are advising me. That is my take.
So did you seek legal advice in respect of this issue?
No.
You just took it upon yourself to decide?
Because I know the standard at a PSC, and I know I am within that standard.
Thank you.
Yes, good day. With respect to the same letter that my colleague referred to, can you please advise us as to who you are answerable to in the execution of your duties as PS?
As the permanent secretary?
Yes.
On day-to-day activities, I'm answerable to the minister.
All right. And then if you were to be moved now to, let's say, another ministry, who is responsible for that?
The Secretary General.
Very well. Apparently, do you have, if you don't agree with the Secretary General, for example, that perhaps you are not supposed to be moved, will you now take it upon yourself to stay where you are, or will you abide by the instructions and move?
I don't understand. When I don't agree...
Yes, with the decision by the Secretary General to move you to another ministry. Let's say you don't agree with that, you think maybe it is a biased decision or been influenced by some other individual or whatsoever. Are you going to stay and defy that instruction?
I have an option.
Yes.
To either move or resign.
But do you have an option to stay and not to move?
No. I cannot stay to say I'm going to stay by force.
Very well. So you have been advised by the PSC as per the letter that was just read to you earlier on. And it is your opinion that the letter perhaps is a biased opinion. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as I'm concerned, it remains to be your opinion that it is a biased opinion from the PSC. Is that not correct?
No, the examples doesn't tally.
That's what I'm saying. That is your opinion. As
you
far
are
as you're
using
concerned.
an example of a Secretary General scenario
Now,
as my immediate supervisor to deploy me.
right.
That whether I agree or not, if he deploys me, I have to move or I have to resign. That is the law. But then this is different. I sought your advice, and my decision is to either go by your advice or not to go by your advice. Those are the two options there.
Yes.
It's different. I can choose to go by your advice and take the consequence, because the consequence becomes mine. Or to refuse that advice when I'm convinced that what I'm doing is right, and still take the consequence. And I choose not to go by the advice and to take any consequence that comes out of it.
But you sought that advice on the grounds that the Local Government Service Commission should operate in the same line with the Public Service Commission. Is that not correct?
Exactly.
And then the standards that are set there should be the standards that the Local Government Service Commission should operate.
Exactly.
So you sought the advice because at the time that you were seeking the advice, if you had known what the correct position was, there was no need to seek the advice.
I told you the background of why we sought the advice.
I understand the background.
Because there were diverse opinions.
Right.
Then we sought the advice based on the opinions. We had to go back to them. But you cannot advise me on something that you don't practice, and that is what the standard I should live by.
So now, what the standards set at the PSC, the standards you are saying are the ones that are applicable and are contrary to the ones that you have been advised. Are they found in any guidelines, or are they found in any regulation? Or is it just an action that you see and you've observed at the PSC?
These are things that are very obvious that you see on a daily basis. This is, they said, the standard, apart from the laws or policies that guides, that of course you have to make reference to. But in doing one thing or the other, you have to now do it to the standard of that. Does Public Service Commission have an appointed secretary appointed by the Public Service Commission? No. Does the Public Service Commission also have a directorate that has its own letterhead? No. So if they are telling me that I should live by their standard, and they are advising me to create something that is outside their standard, if it goes wrong, where do I hinge to? Is that act, that provision of the act? And the next question will be, but what we are doing is not in line with that provision. So I am supposed to know, as the head of the ministry, the risk I'm taking. I have to know it. So I have to now take decision based on somebody's advice. But it's not compulsory that when I'm advised, I should go by that advice.
Very well. Have you written letters on behalf of the Local Government Service Commission at any time?
No.
You have not?
No. On their behalf?
Yes. Maybe perhaps.
They convey their decision of the ministry in terms of sending signal, just like Public Service Commission convey decision of the local government service, the Public Service Commission, we also convey their decisions.
Yes, in conveying their decisions, were you instructed to do so formally or is it orally?
They will write to me.
Very well.
Yes.
So that is the practice. Whenever you are to convey any decision by the Local Government Service Commission, they will normally write to you so that you convey that.
Yeah, they will write their decision on a letter, on their letterhead, sent to my office, say that this is their letterhead to be conveyed to Council A, B, or C, or all the councils, whatever. Then we will now say we hereby convey the approval of the Local Government Service Commission on A, B, C, D to that about various councils.
Yes. So you were also the last sitting requested to produce a letter that you have written to the area councils. I think the letter is in relation to, if I'm right, for the area councils to channel all communications through your office for the Local Government Service Commission, I think, something like that. Do you have it?
No, the letter was in the file. I think we saw it in the file. I was not requested to take it. The letter I was instructed to bring were the letters that were sent to the councils regarding, from the Service Commission regarding the decision in relation to, I think, Senator Martin's case. That was what I was, but then the council the letter you are referring to was brought to me here. It is in the file.
Very well. So, Honorable PS, it appears as if, to be honest with you, you were just, you decide to go contrary to the advice because it does not suit how you want to go, administer the office.
That's your opinion.
Yes, now I'm putting my opinion to you. What is your reaction to that?
It's a wrong opinion because you can see it clearly that what I'm advised is not obtained there.
But what you advise is standard practice.
What I'm advised, I'm asked to go by their standard, and what I'm advised is not what they practice.
Very well then. We will now, unless, I'm sure it is almost 4, unless you have other questions, we have received files from in relation to, from his office that we have to go through, and then some of the files are in relation to their inspection, and so on and so forth, which we can deal with tomorrow. But then unless you have other questions, we will want to stop here for now and proceed with those matters tomorrow morning.
I have 1 or 2 questions. Mr. Sanyang, who determines the allowances that members of council are paid?
The minister.
Now, given some of the reports we have, we did notice that there was a 46% increase in the allowances of the mayor's office. Let me take an example of one of the municipalities, that is KMC. Which amounted from 2018 to 2021 from 9,625 194.16. That is 9.6 million to 14 million, 14.1 million. In this regard, you said it is the minister that determines the allowances. What informed the rise? And is there any evidence?
Maybe I got you wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you wrong. I thought you are talking about the commission, like service commission members. You are talking about the councillors.
Yes, the councils, the
yes.
different councils, like Basse Area Council, KMC, and all these
yes,
other councils.
When the...
Now, just let me go back to the question.
Yes.
Who determines the allowances of these council members?
Yes, also that is done by the minister.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, to my question.
So now I'm on the same page.
Yes.
But then this is something that we have been fighting with, especially KMC. They believe that council resolution supersedes everything. They can sit and pass a resolution and increase anything and do anything. As such, even contract extension to staff who retired or they are taking them, hire them on contract, are taken for council resolution and then hired, are taken for council resolution and extended. These have been practice that we have been trying to deal with. Even the CEO, deputy CEO asked to hand over, refuse, taken council resolution, no, you cannot hand over, stay. These are problems that we try to struggle with. And then when the budget is observed, it's sent back to the council for approval. The approving authority is the council. But their personal emolument is sent to the minister for approval. This was done for all the councillors when it was rationalized to see that at least it reflects their work. And that of the mayors and the chairpersons, the ministry needed that these need further studies because we found a big disparity between especially the mayor of Banjul, the mayor of KMC, with the chairperson Brikama, chairperson Janjambure, and other chairpersons. This disparity, we said, it needs studies because the law says you cannot also reduce somebody's earning. Just sit down and say your salary is reduced. How do you deal with this issue? How do we handle it going forward is what the ministry was looking at. But in the meantime, these councils were just added at their own level without having the minister's approval some of these allowances.
Okay, let me just refer you to Section 27 of the Local Government Act, which says allowances for members of a council. It reads, let me just read it to you before I ask a follow-up question. The Secretary of State shall, by regulations, determine allowances and any other benefits which shall be paid by a council to its members. So in other words, what the legislation is saying is mandatory. The power is given to the minister to mandatorily provide for these allowances. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, given the fact that you have the opportunity of perusing these budgets, and what we did notice was that the 46% increase from 2018 to 2021, from this 9.6 million to 14.1 million, just for allowances for a particular municipality, for example, KMC. Were you not able to raise issues with respect to this?
Yes, these are issues that we have always been observing. But particular council like KMC, we observe their budget, you send them the observation, you correct, they go, they said council doesn't agree. They go by what they want.
Very well. Thank you so much. We shall, this is already 4, Mr. Sanyang, we shall close the proceedings now, and we will continue tomorrow at 10.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.